Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. The time is now 7:50 a.m. Continuing to follow the Brittney Griner story as she returns home following her Russian prisoner swap. She was detained in Russia for nearly 10 months. I had a chance to sit down with her former high school basketball coach, Debbie Jackson, about the WNBA star's return. Let's take a trip down memory lane. The year is 2008 or 2009. Nimitz High School girls basketball team is facing off against Cy Falls. I was there. I remember the stadium was packed. People had these huge cardboard cutouts of Brittney's face. It seemed like the entire city of Houston has showed up to this game to witness who would be the next rising star in the WNBA. So as her coach, as her mentor, as someone who groomed her throughout that process, take me back to those years and what was it like to witness her success?
Well, I mean, it was a joy to coach Brittney. It was actually, I guess, her senior year was 2009, and that's when we went to state.
2009 year.
Yeah, and she had a big following because there's not many 6'8" girls, and there's not many girls that dunk anywhere. So, and she was dunking in games, not just dunking in practice. So as a freshman, Brittney was 5'10", so she was just, it was tall, but not exceptionally tall. And she had never played basketball before. She did not know the rules of the game. I saw her playing volleyball on the freshman team and introduced myself after a game and said, when volleyball's over, I'd like you to come out for basketball. And she started laughing. She said, Coach, you don't want me. I've never played before. I don't even know the rules. And I said, well, that's my job to coach you. If you'll just give it a try, give it 3 weeks. If you don't like it, go back to volleyball. And so she came out, and I guess it was love at first dribble or something. I'm not sure, because she didn't play any other sport the rest of her high school years. And she was like a sponge, just soaking up every, a little bit more every day and growing as a player. She had played soccer in junior high. So I think, the footwork you learn in soccer helped her in basketball.
Yeah,
but
she was
it just makes her story more phenomenal when you realize she never played before she was a 9th grader in high school. And by her senior year, she's dunking the ball. She's an All-American, McDonald's All-American, USA Today's team, Gatorade Player of the Year in Texas. It just shows what a good attitude and hard work and believe in yourself and believe in your teammates, how, you can go a long way. Absolutely. If you believe in yourself.
That's a message that resonates with all of us, I think.
Yes. And then to see her go on to Baylor, win a national championship at Baylor, and, have great success there, and more people following her. And then to go to the WNBA and play for the Phoenix Mercury and, be a star in that league, a 2-time Olympian, a world champion. So, that's every coach's dream come true, is to see her players grow as people first and foremost, but then to have a dream and achieve that goal and that dream through hard work. And that's what she is. She's a hard worker with a great attitude and great sense of humor.
And knowing all of those things about her character, how did you feel when you first saw that video of Brittney with her luggage going through the Russian airport and being detained? Talk to me about what was going through your mind when you saw that viral video.
I was actually at home. I remember the date vividly. It's February 17th. And, it came out that, with video of her going through the, putting her baggage up in the Russian airport
Mm-hmm.
and saying she'd been detained. And, you know, the news just, any further news just trickled out so slowly that everybody just had to wait and see. I was hoping, okay, this can be resolved easily. She's played in Russia. This is going to be her fifth season in Russia. She's well loved by the Russians. The owner of the team, the oligarch that owns the team, will intercede and get this, you know, this straightened out. And so, I mean, you're always on pins and needles when you're in a socialist country with a, you know, a dictator, and somewhat of a madman, I would call Putin, because their justice system is certainly not like ours at all. And then when I heard that 99% of all accused are found guilty in Russia, you know, that was devastating to realize, well, there's really not going to be a fair trial, or you can't bring in witnesses. You know, it's just so different from ours.
So you mentioned how Brittney played pro ball in Russia for a number of years. That's another interesting caveat because pay equity, right, for women in sports, this really came to the forefront of the conversation following Griner's detention. Many athletes weighing in saying that a WNBA champion, a two-time Olympic gold medalist, shouldn't have to travel overseas during their off season to make more money. So do you think that this situation as a whole will help when it comes to women in sports? I mean, possibly earning a salary that is at least comparable to their male counterparts?
I wish it, I hope it does, but things seem sometimes to move so slowly in this country as far as women and equity and salary and leadership positions in countries, in companies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you can make 200,000 playing in the WNBA, or you can make $1 million going overseas for one season. So that's quite a discrepancy. We're not talking about, you know, a small difference and people, you know, risking their safety for, you know, pennies on the dollar. We're talking about 4 times what you can make.
Oh
So
yes.
it's easy. I mean, people sometimes don't understand that there's such a difference, and they are critical of people going, you know, over to China or to Russia to play. But you know, this was her 9th year to be playing overseas. So I think she felt comfortable doing it. She certainly knew, you know, the laws and rules of the country. And I really question whether she was ever guilty of the charge
You
brought
question
against
whether
her.
or not she had the vapes, if that was an
Yes,
even
because I really
thing.
don't know how she could get out of the airport at Newark with them in a carry-on bag that goes through. I mean, I've been pulled over because I had a nail file, you know, in my makeup bag that I forgot. So I don't understand how she got out of the airport on the US side to even get on the plane and, you know, go to Russia. I believe she was used as a political pawn, that the Russians really wanted to get Victor Bout out of prison and back to Russia. And so they picked a high profile athlete that was well known to use her for political advantage.
So let's talk about the politics just for a moment, because many people cheerfully welcomed Brittney home, but we did hear from lawmakers and politicians who are questioning the cost of the trade. What do you say to those people?
I would say whether it was Brittney or any other U.S. citizen wrongfully detained, that, I mean, as much as it was not a equal trade for a murdering criminal versus someone that had a small amount of drugs, that a U.S. citizen, you know, who's played and represented her country, or any U.S. citizen, deserves to come back. And sometimes you just have to do what you have to do because you're dealing with a country that does not have our values, that they don't have our sense of justice. So you can't pretend that you were dealing with irrational negotiators on the other side. And so if that's what took to get her or any U.S. citizen home, I'm glad it was done, because if it wasn't done, it could have been years before there was another opportunity.
Now, Brittney did in fact plead guilty, but to your point, President Biden called this a painstaking negotiation process. Just a few weeks ago, Secretary of State Antony Blinken actually used the phrase hostage negotiations. So I think that definitely speaks to the unusual tactics that were used to bring Brittney home. Now, at the beginning of our conversation, you described what it felt like to see that video of Brittney being detained in that Russian airport. Flash forward to now, when you saw the video of her final moments in prison, signing those release documents, getting on the plane to come home. What did that feel like? Talk to me about what was going through your mind.
Well, I mean, I was so excited to see that she looked healthy. You know, she had a smile on her face. And then to hear the reports of people that were on the plane with her, how she wanted to talk, she wanted to visit, she introduced herself to everyone, she thanked them for, you know, all the assistance they'd given her. I mean, that just sounded like, you know, number one, I was so relieved that physically she appeared to be fine. And at least emotionally, she was able to be upbeat. And so, I mean, that just made my day to hear. It was so typical of Brittney, not to get up and be cordial and to introduce herself to people after you've been in prison for 10 months. It really made me feel good about her physical and emotional state.
Mm-hmm. Many experts weighing in on just that, the psychological toll of being jailed in a Russian prison for nearly 10 months. This may be too soon to ask, but do you think she will ever return to the court? Will Brittney Griner ever play professional basketball again?
I think that Brittney needs to take as much time for herself and to as much time as she needs to overcome, as much as you can overcome this trauma that she's been through. Yeah. But it's my guess that with her upbeat personality, and that it will be sooner rather than later that we'll see her, and she'll be living every day to the utmost to get every second out of life in freedom.
That's beautiful.
And so I do think we'll see her again.
Have you had a chance to speak with her?
No, I haven't. I don't know anyone other than her wife and her family that's been able to do that. And it's my understanding that she'll be taken soon, she and her wife, to a secluded area. And I'm sure that's just to give her time to, you know, come to grips with things, and to get any emotional support she needs, psychological support she needs. And I think that's important. Even though selfishly, I'd love to see her and give her a big hug. She needs to do whatever she needs to do.
What would you tell her?
Oh my gosh, I would tell her I love her. And I hope that her knowing that her Nimitz family and her WNBA family and all the people that know her I hope that knowing how much we care about her helped her in some small way to get through this, and that I'm just so proud that she, outwardly appears to have come through this, and that I would tell her once again, Brittney, you do what you need for you before you think about anybody else.
Thank you so much to Rain Augustine, speaking with the former high school coach there of Brittney Griner. We'll have much more continuing coverage of Brittney Griner and that prison swap, as several folks are still calling for the release of Paul Whelan, who is being held by Russia. Again, we'll have all of that for you here on Live Now from Fox. My name is Josh Breslow. It is 8:06.